Good morning, folks. Welcome to Terra Nova Tuesday. Today I have a bit of a treat for you. As you can tell from the thumbnail here, I will be telling some jokes. Now, before I do that, let me put my face back on screen. My handsome and ever so slightly chubby and fuzzy face. This is a disclaimer for any YouTube manual reviewer that happens to have to look at this video. If I have had to challenge this on the basis of prejudice or some form of bigotry based on my use of the term Newfie, I would like to point out that as black people are given an N-word pass, Newfoundlanders similarly should be given a Newfie pass. In other words, I'm a Newfoundlander, it's okay if I call myself a Newfie. Generally, the jokes I'm telling are not negative towards Newfoundlanders. I find those to be generally less than clever, and, excuse me as I move my mic, I also find Newfoundland jokes that make the Newfoundlander out to be an idiot kind of pointless. Because, well, that's just the kind of joke you tell when you're being a little bit mean-spirited. That said, Newfoundlanders do have a massive capacity to laugh at ourselves, so some of them may very well make us out to look kind of dumb. Now I'll start with the thumb again, so that you understand the nature of this is intended to be humorous and to share simply fun jokes. So, to put myself back on screen, as I am something of a natural performer and an attention whore, before we get started, I will ask my audience to very kindly like, share, and subscribe to this channel and to this video as appropriate, but also, more importantly, there we go. Go to this link and subscribe there so I can start doing live streaming on Rumble once I hit 100 subs, and I'm about a third of the way there now. Sorry, that's probably wrong. It's probably closer to a fifth. But it's happening rather rapidly, and I do appreciate every single one of you for it. Now, on to the jokes, because there's nothing I like more than telling a good joke. And I'll start with one of my favorites. And I will point out that there is a bit of historical inconsistency, geographic inconsistency in this joke, but I will relate it as it was told to me. So, a Yankee, a Brit, and a Newfoundlander, or Newfie, are out during the Indian Wars and are captured by Geronimo and his tribe and taken back to camp. Now, I will point out a few things here. There is a potential for racist accusation here. It's not the case. This is simply a joke. So, they are captured. And I've heard this same joke rephrased as a tribe of cannibals capture the Newfoundlanders. Capture the three men. So we could go with that as well. So in this case, we'll switch the setting from the desert during the Indian Wars to a South Seas island cannibal tribe. It's not really making a big difference, other than changing the potential focus of offense. Yeah. Which really doesn't make it any better. In any case, the Yank, the Brit, and the Newfie are taken to the camp, to the tribe's, camp. And they are told they will be killed. So they go to the Yankee first. They say, Yankee, how do you want to die? They're told they'll get to choose their own method of death. And the Yankee says, well, I'm a strong American. I want to die fighting. They acquiesce to his demands. They get the largest individual in the camp to wrestle with him, snaps his neck. Sure enough, he's dead. He died. They dry him, hollow him out, and make a canoe out of him. This is kind of focal point. They go to the Brit. They say, Brit, how do you want to die? The Brit says, well, I'd like to die in my sleep. Thinking of England. And they say, okay. They mix him up some poisonous tea, hemlock, what have you. He drinks it, lays down, goes to sleep, dies. They dry him out, make a canoe out of him. They come to the Newfoundlander. They say, Newfie, how do you want to die? And the Newfoundlander, with a sly look in his eye, says, give me a fork. And they're kind of shocked at this, and they go, a fork? Newfoundlander says, yeah, you told me I could choose how I die. Give me a fork. So they hand the Newfoundlander a fork, and he starts doing this. And he yells at them as he passes away, you ain't making no fucking canoe out of me. Yeah, one of my favorites. Speaking of favorites, there are multiple collections of these wonderful joke books. These are not copyrighted jokes. These are simply collections by the wonderful let me just show you here, by the wonderful Bob Tulk. And the art is done by, let me get in close, I believe that reads Derm Duggan. Yes, Derm Duggan, which is probably short for Dermot. Just flipping to a random page here. Let's see. Just having a quick look here. Here we go. It took Michelangelo 22 years on his back to paint the dome of the Vatican. It's actually the Sistine Chapel, but we'll allow mistakes. But if he'd used a roller, he could have done it overnight. First wife, my husband is an engineer. Second wife, my husband is a plumber. First wife, what do you mean plumber? You don't even have a sewer system where you come from. Second wife, well, he digs holes for outhouses. What else would you call him? Sleeping is like lying down on a bed and turning yourself off. Only one man in a million understands politics in Newfoundland. Isn't it odd how we keep running into him? Did you hear about the Newfoundlander who took his girl and drove to a sand pit about 6 miles from town? When he parked, the girl said, you can go as far as you like. The Newfoundlander said, I can't go any further. I won't have enough gas to get home. What's worse than being seasick? Being seasick with lockjaw. Did you hear about the Newfoundlander who went moose hunting? He was in the woods for 5 days and didn't even see a track. On the way out, he noticed a girl down by a pond, bare as the day she came into the world. Newfoundlander says to her, are you game? Girl looks up, smiles, and says, yes. So he shot her. Yeah, some of these are a little iffy, to say the least. But, again, it's a collection of Newfoundland jokes. So here's one from upjoke.com, which has a lot of really bad Newfoundland jokes. This one actually turns out to be a pretty good one. A Newfoundlander had caught 2 lobsters and was walking home along the coast when a cop drove by and saw him. The cop pulled over and stopped the man. Sir, are you aware it's not lobster season and it's illegal to fish lobsters? My sonny boy, the Newfie said. I didn't fish 'em. These lobsters are me pets. Police officer looks at him with a stern look and says, sir, no one keeps lobsters as pets. I will have to issue you a fine of $10,000 apiece for these lobsters unless you can prove your claim. Newfoundlander thinks for a moment. He says, well, I've had them since they was babies. Trained them myself, I did. I can let them go play, and when I calls them, they comes right back to me. The cop, disbelieving the man, allowed him to demonstrate. So the Newfoundlander walked down to the water's edge, put the lobsters down on the sand and said, go on, boys, go play. The lobsters immediately turned and crawled down into the water. Amazed, the cop blinked in amazement. That's incredible. I've never seen anything like it. Now call them back. Newfoundlander turned with a sly smile and said, call what back? This is another good one. Newfoundlander walks into a Toronto pub, takes a seat next to a very attractive woman. He gives her a quick up and down look, then casually glances at his watch for a moment. The woman notices and, of course, asks, is your date running late? No, says the Newfie. I just got this state-of-the-art watch and I was just testing it. The intrigued woman says, a state-of-the-art watch? What's so special about it? The Newfie explains, it uses alpha waves to talk to me telepathically. The lady says, well, what's it telling you now? The Newfoundlander smiles and says, well, it says you're not wearing any panties. The woman giggles and replies, well, it must be broken because I am wearing panties. Newfie taps his watch and goes, damn thing's an hour fast. Let's see here. I do apologize for the little bit of dead air. Here we go. Newfie hooker. Newfoundlander was walking home late at night, spots a woman in the shadows. $20, she whispers. Period never even seen a hooker before. Never been with one. And decides, what the hell? It's only $20 and you only live once. So they hide in the shadows. Or in the bushes, rather. So they're going at it for a minute when all of a sudden a light flashes on them. It's a friggin' cop. What's going on here, people? Asks the officer. I'm making love to me wife, Newfoundlander answers, annoyed. Oh, I'm sorry, says the cop. I didn't know. Newfie responds, neither did I buy till you put the light on her face. Okay. So, for the last one today, and I'll bring this back for just a moment. For the last piece today, I have a video that I recorded earlier, and I will play that for you guys now. This will be the end, so hopefully you guys, you're having a good day, and things work out well. Dear God, I apologize for the angle I shot this at initially. Okay, so this is going to be the... just bear with me while I get my camera stand sorted. This will be the last joke I tell you for the day. And it does require a visual component, so... let's see here. That should be good enough. And yes, you get to see the very brutal mess that is my shed at this point. But, in true Newfoundland fashion, there is a degree of visual requirement for some of the jokes. Also, that's not a noose. Don't freak out. It's for hanging other things. Mostly me. And again, not a noose. I hang from it to stretch. So, I think that's about good. Let me drop that a little bit, just to get a better field of view here. That'll work. Okay, so, this video will be played at the end of my Terra Nova Tuesday video today, in which I hope you've already enjoyed a few jokes. But here's the one that I think should be the clincher, as it were. And there's a fine tradition of telling jokes in a shed in Newfoundland. So we'll go with the standard set of characters here. So we have an American, a Canadian, and a Newfoundlander, all working on the high steel in Toronto. And for those of you who don't know, I'll throw a little bit of a history lesson in here. New York, Boston, Chicago, Toronto, and pretty much all the eastern coastal and Great Lakes areas in the US and Canada that have high steel, Newfoundlanders worked on almost all of those buildings at one point or another in the construction phase. So, to the joke. An American, a Canadian, and a Newfoundlander are working on the high steel in Toronto. We'll go with Toronto. Of course, as sometimes happens with men, they begin to talk about the length of themselves, their manhoods. And of course, they're bragging and competing. And finally, one of them says, probably the Newfoundlander, now show now, boys, come on. Which basically in Newfoundland parlance means, I don't believe you, prove it. So the American turns around over the high steel, not wanting to expose himself to his co-workers, unzips, and they come over, they look, sure enough, 5 floors down. So they're kind of amazed. But the Canadian starts laughing. And the Canadian says, that's nothing. He goes over to the edge, unzips. Sure enough, 10 floors down. Newfoundlanders, the American is suitably impressed and ashamed. The Canadian, being proud, furls it back up, puts it away. The Newfoundlander walks over to the edge, and he's kind of chuckling as he does it. Unzips. And then after a while, starts going like this. And the American and the Canadian ask him, "What are you doing?" Newfoundlander looks over his shoulder and goes, "Dodging traffic." I hope you're doing well. I hope you continue to do well. Rise and rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.